All right, Parliament's fire has flared up again. We've been showing you those visuals of smoke billowing from the National Assembly. It had been brought under control earlier, but it looks like that is the site of the new flare-up. Already there was shock around the devastation wreaked by that blaze yesterday. The Parliamentary precinct includes 3 linked buildings. It consists of the old Assembly wing that was completed in 1884 and the National Assembly wing, which are the newer buildings completed in the 1920s and 80s. That is where a lot of the live screened activity takes place. The old part has reportedly been completely gutted. Various investigations will take place since government has admitted there was no monitoring of the CCTV cameras by Parliamentary security. An engineering report is expected on Friday, according to Minister Patricia de Lille. Let's discuss now. We're joined by architectural historian Mauritz Naude. Mr. Naude, thank you. And you don't know this specific building inside and out, but let's talk about that historic building, the one completed in the 1880s. Apparently the roof collapsed, a lot of damage. Do you fear that it could be completely lost?
Of course, I haven't been to the site. The ideal would be to go to the site and do a thorough investigation prior to coming up with any recommendations. The problem is that usually when the roof goes, whatever's underneath, floors, walls, cupboards, especially timber floors, all the timber work will go with it. And that usually leaves you with an empty shell or a ruin. And of course, the ruin also needs to be investigated to determine whether there's any structural damage to the structure itself. That's the walls and any other parts of the building. So a fire is devastating, but the second phase of a fire usually is the damage done by extinguishing the fire with water. Water has another type of impact on buildings than the fire. So we don't know. We still need to do a thorough structural investigation to determine how extensive these damages occurred.
If it was completed in 1884, what sort of historic significance would a building like that have?
Well, for a start, the National Heritage Resources Act protects buildings older than 60 years and then also older than 75 years and then older than 100 years. And the other aspect is that these buildings, especially those old parts, are probably of equal significance than the bits that were added later, maybe not older than 60 years. The buildings, I think, have been assessed thoroughly historically. I don't have evidence of it, but I know there was a project done by Public Works with extensions and renovations and restoration. I think it was in the 1980s, could have been the 1990s. So those records need to be thoroughly investigated and scrutinized to determine what they investigated and how they defined the significance of those buildings. The Act protects buildings older than 100 years, older than 60 years, and even more so, the buildings, I think, have been proclaimed as a national heritage site. If it's not national, it is provincial. And the criteria used in the Act to determine that significance would clearly define the significance of the buildings. We know that Herbert Baker was associated with the later plans of the buildings, and that in itself adds a lot of value to the oeuvre of Herbert Baker. But also it's also a national key point. So there are so many layers of historic significance, social significance, political significance. One can do an entire encyclopedia on the significance of those buildings.
So, okay, finally, so we're waiting for more information. But if there's a restoration effort, I mean, we know that old buildings have been restored and the detail returned that was there originally. I mean, in Germany, they're building an old palace. But usually, do you agree with me, at quite significant cost?
Yes. There will be several layers or several avenues to approach the project. it will not only be restoration. One is looking, the bigger picture is you're looking at sustaining the building's use in the future. So there will be modernization in terms of installing new upgraded health and safety features. And those will not be classic restoration, it will be modernization and renovation. Then there will be reconstruction because the roofs will have to be reconstructed. The other details such as windows, floors, doors and so forth will be restored. So there's an entire layering also of different approaches how to sustain the building or how to return it back and how to extend the life of that building. And it's going to be extensive and it's going to be expensive and it's going to take a lot of time and effort. One would propose that there's a proper heritage team who would work with the architects. I don't think this is a one-man show or one-man project. It's going to be a team who's supposed to work on that building in terms of reconstructing and restoring it. And it's a building that is really, that one can spend the money on. It's a pity that we're not in the economic situation where we can just pay out of our back pockets. But it's supposed to be a serious project with the right people making up that team for extending its life. I would rather call it extending the life.
Mr. Naude, thank you very much. Mauritz Naude, architectural historian, looking at the old building. What you're seeing now on your screen, by the way, are live visuals. And these are the newer buildings. They're two newer buildings that form up the National Assembly. And earlier we were speaking to Abra Barbria. We brought you those visuals. She couldn't see exactly how many firefighters were on the ground. So let's bring you a quick update. The Fire and Rescue Service has confirmed that there is a flare-up. It says the void beneath the roof sheeting of the National Assembly is on fire. So that smoke is billowing out of the roof of the National Assembly. Currently there are 6 firefighting appliances on scene, as well as the hydraulic platform from Roland Street Fire Station. I think that refers to the crane that then pours the water down onto the roof. Approximately 34 firefighters are busy with active firefighting. That is from the Fire and Rescue Service, saying that more than 30 are currently on scene, and these are live visuals coming to you from the Parliamentary precinct.